palace halls fell silent, and then gasped. Duchess Sophie just replaced Meghan Markle, and her comeback left everyone stunned. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because what's unfolding inside Buckingham Palace right now feels less like royal protocol and more like poetic justice. In today's commentary, we dive into the story sending tremors through Britain's most guarded institution. King Charles has reportedly made a quiet yet monumental decision. Duchess Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, is stepping into a role once envisioned for Meghan Markle, and her reaction has become the talk of the kingdom. The revelation came after weeks of speculation about who would assume several of Meghan's symbolic responsibilities, engagements, patronages, and public duties once tied to modernizing the monarchy. But the palace didn't just make a substitution. It made a statement. When asked if she was replacing Meghan Markle, Sophie delivered what royal watchers now call the most elegantly savage line in modern history. What did people think we were doing beforehand? That single sentence broke the internet and reset the conversation around what working royal really means. To understand why this moment matters, we need to rewind. When Prince Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal life in 2020, the institution faced an unprecedented void. Their departure, alongside Prince Andrew's scandal-driven retreat, left a vacuum in visibility and responsibility. For months, headlines speculated that Sophie and Prince Edward would quietly take on those duties. Few realized they already had. As a former PR professional and the wife of the Queen's youngest son, Sophie had been representing the monarchy across more than 70 charities, including women's empowerment, disability advocacy, and humanitarian causes. But she did so without spectacle, without the spotlight, without hashtags. Her sharp reply wasn't arrogance. It was exhaustion, the kind that comes from being underestimated for decades. Sophie doesn't compete for cameras, a palace aide reportedly said. She competes for results. And yet, this understated power move has now catapulted her into the public eye like never before. But you haven't heard the craziest part. When royal biographer Nicholl revealed Sophie's remarks in The New Royals 2022, fans noticed a subtle but seismic shift in palace PR. Invitations, photo calls, and briefings began to feature Sophie and Edward in increasingly senior positions. Seated close to the king, positioned more prominently in official group photos. Rising tension? Absolutely. Because this wasn't just substitution. It was succession. Before you think this is simply another royal rivalry headline, consider this. Sophie's rise mirrors a generational reset under King Charles's leadership. The monarchy is shrinking, deliberately. Fewer faces, more function. And while Meghan pursued global branding, Sophie doubled down on quiet service. She traveled to war zones, hospitals, and women's shelters, the kind of engagements that don't trend, but matter deeply to the crown's image of continuity. If Meghan was a Netflix documentary, dramatic, high production, and headline-worthy, Sophie was a BBC broadcast, calm, precise, enduring. It's a contrast that tells you everything about where the monarchy is heading. Palace insiders now whisper that Sophie will take over several of Meghan's once flagship initiatives, including select Commonwealth engagements and patronage of women-led enterprises. That's not coincidence. That's consolidation. And the numbers back it up. According to YouGov's 2025 popularity poll, Sophie now ranks as the 7th most popular royal, surpassing the Duke and Duchess of Sussex by a wide margin. Hashtags like hashtag Sophie's Moment and hashtag Windsors Secret Weapon have gone viral, with users praising her grace under pressure and authentic royal work ethic. But the emotional peak of this story isn't about charts or polls. It's about legacy. For years, Queen Elizabeth reportedly considered Sophie her second daughter. They shared lunches at Windsor, late-night phone calls, and quiet moments few knew about. Sophie even referred to the late Queen as Mama. When the Queen passed, many expected the family's dynamic to fracture. Instead, Sophie emerged as a bridge between the old guard and the new reign. Sophie carries the late Queen's patience, said one royal correspondent, but she also carries her steel. So when King Charles recently appointed Sophie to represent the crown at key international summits, roles once considered reserved for the Sussexes, it felt less like favoritism and more like correction. In the eyes of royal insiders, Sophie isn't replacing Meghan. She's restoring balance. And perhaps that's why her one-liner hit so hard. Because beneath its humor was years of quiet credibility finally being recognized. Still, not everyone is applauding. Meghan's supporters argue this narrative paints her unfairly as a failed royal, while Sophie's rise benefits from an establishment that once resisted Meghan's independence. The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle. Sophie has played by the rules, and the monarchy rewards obedience. Meghan tried to rewrite the script, and Hollywood rewards defiance. Both women, in their own ways, are reflections of Britain's identity crisis. Tradition versus transformation. But here's the twist few saw coming. Palace sources say Sophie's growing influence isn't just symbolic. She's reportedly being prepped for a more senior advisory role alongside the king, particularly in Commonwealth relations, an area once Meghan publicly championed. That's not just royal gossip. That's strategic repositioning. As Buckingham Palace adjusts to a post-Elizabeth era, the women who define it tell two very different stories. Meghan Markle remains a global disruptor, crafting her brand, her narrative, and her independence. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, represents a counterweight, stability, loyalty, and earned trust. And now, under King Charles's reign, those qualities are currency. Her quiet defiance, her composure under pressure, her decades of unnoticed work, all of it culminated in that single question. What did people think we were doing beforehand? That wasn't a clapback. It was a coronation in words. Pop culture analogy? It's like the understudy finally stepping on stage, only to realize the spotlight was hers all along. In the monarchy's silent power game, sometimes the loudest statement is made by the one who never needed a microphone. If you thought that was wild, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Do you think Sophie truly replaced Meghan, or is the media framing it that way? Wait till you see the next royal pivot. The private dinner, where Queen Camilla reportedly revealed what King Charles really thinks of Meghan's Hollywood projects.